Ghana blames its power outage on Nigeria's oil sabotage. Libya prepares to reopen closed fields to pump crude oil again. Plus, Congo miners stare into Abis as commodities slump. Good afternoon. This is Business Incorporated coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. We'll begin in the U.S., where the Federal Reserve believes it was prudent to wait for the UK vote on European Union membership before raising interest rates last month. The minutes of the Fed's latest monetary policy meeting shows that the U.S. Central Bank was concerned about the impact of the referendum on financial markets. Policy makers were also concerned about May's slow job growth. The minutes also showed that Fed officials disagreed in their judgment of employment, inflation, and pace of interest rate hikes in the future. In regard to inflation outlook, some officials observed that core inflation had risen, while several others continued to see downside risk to inflation. The next meeting to decide on interest rates is on 26 to 27 of July. Our European stocks rallied today after a sell-off earlier this week. Let's bring in DWTV Channels TV financial correspondent Conrad Busen to tell us what's driving the markets today. Good afternoon, Conrad. Now, on the stock markets in Europe, the trend has changed to the upside. That's a welcome relief, isn't it? So what's driving share prices up?
A couple of strong earnings reports from very different sectors came in today. Samsung, for example, the large technology firm from Korea, reported strong sales of its flagship mobile phones, much better than what analysts had forecast, so that second quarter earnings were much stronger than forecast. The shares are up here in Frankfurt. In Switzerland, the chocolate maker Barry Callebaut, or Barry Callebaut, if you want to pronounce it in English, reported about strong sales. And here in Germany, very diverse companies, Südzucker, for example, which is a sugar producer, and also packaging maker Gerresheimer came in with strong earnings. What's more, people here are talking about a large takeover on the horizon. The yogurt giant Danone from France plans to spend more than 11 billion euros for its American competitor White Wave Foods. So all this combined gives investors a couple of opportunities and buying occasions to dwell on.
Now, from what we have seen today, does it mean that the Brexit concerns are all gone, or are markets just taking a breather? Looking behind you there, I could see that the DAX is gradually tilting downwards.
Well, Jimmy, most people I talk to here are convinced that we are continuously going to see high volatility, because the real implications of what Brexit means will only come step by step to, people on the markets, people in businesses, and also politicians. There's a saying that 90% of what's going on in the economy is psychology. And, to measure the state of mind or the state of the soul of people in the economy simply is very difficult. Many investors continue today also to be hesitant, despite that upswing that we are seeing on the stock market. Look at the DAX here, the German stock index. It is on the upside, but it's also quite jittery. And we are seeing interest of investors being oriented continuously towards what's called safe haven investments. Gold, for example, is in demand. The price for an ounce has jumped up to $1,370. And in terms of government bonds, France today auctioned off new government bonds worth 10 billion euros, and the yields on them were very, very low, at a record low. So demand for those government bonds was also very high.
Well, I can see, of course, the cautious trading persists. Now, the U.S. labor market will get in focus today and, of course, tomorrow with the latest American job numbers. What's being expected and what's the impact on the markets?
An increase of job creations in the United States is being expected. The question is now, how big will it be? A couple of minutes ago, we just got the news from the research institute ADP, which told us that in June, 175,000 new jobs were created in the United States. In the private sector, that's much more, 25,000 jobs more than what economists had predicted. Now, tomorrow we will get the official numbers from the US Labor Statistics Bureau, and there it's expected that between 180,000 and 200,000 jobs in the economy of the United States, private sector and public sector combined, were created. Now, you know that this number of jobs that were created, the situation on the labor market, is the major point of interest for monetary policy makers in the United States. So it's going to be very important to see what the development is. And this is what the market will decide on in terms of what direction it takes towards the end of the week tomorrow. We're going to speak monetary policy tomorrow, I'm sure about that.
Sure, Conrad. I know that all eyes are on Fed to make their decision sometime later this month. Well, and I guess whatever figures that come out of this job data will, of course, determine the decisions by Fed later this month. Thank you very much for your time, Conrad. That was Conrad Bussen, DWTV Financial Channels Television Financial Correspondent, reporting there from Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Well, we'll move on to Asia now. The pound continues to hover around 31 years low in Asian trading as more UK property funds suspend withdrawals in the wake of Brexit. However, the Japanese yen is rising for a third day against the dollar as investors buy into the currency, seen as safe haven for their money. Our stocks traded mixed after the latest Federal Reserve minutes showing that prospects of an interest rate hike have diminished. Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 share index fell for a third straight session to close 0.7% lower. The broader topics also fell 0.7%. South Korea's Kospi index gained 1.07%. In China, Hong Kong's Hang Seng index was up 1%, while the Shanghai Composite wrapped trading flat at 3,016.85 points. The UK industrial output fell by 0.5% in May compared with April, and that's according to figures from the Office for National Statistics. There were decreases in 3 of the 4 major industrial sectors, with the biggest downward movement coming from manufacturing. But on an annual basis, industrial output was up by 1.4% on May 2015. And on a quarterly basis, in the 3 months to May, output grew by 1.9% at its quickest pace in 6 years. Manufacturing output was down 0.5% month on month, but was ahead by 1.7% year on year. And the French government pledged on Wednesday to make its tax regime for expatriates the most favorable in Europe, and a land grab for London banking business displaced by Britain's decision to quit the European Union. France's financial sector has often complained of government ambivalence towards the industry, which is subject to high taxes and sometimes hostile remarks from politicians. But Paris sees an opportunity in last month's Brexit vote, the regulatory implications of which place a huge question mark over London's place as the center of Europe's banking business.
La place de Paris est aussi innovante.
Paris is also innovating. We want to build all together the financial capital of the future, make Paris the capital of smart finance. Our role for this is to provide you with the adapted setting, open to new ideas and to entrepreneurs who are ready to take the risk, because the word entrepreneur means to take risks. We live in a society where we must assume and take risks, and your role is to continue seizing the opportunities as you do today.
Now, all the corporates in France, all the banks, all the fund managers are really practicing the English as a professional language. And we have very international companies. If you compare the situation to 10 years ago, the situations have completely changed. The French corporates even make a major part of activities in the global world. So that's no more a point.